Today on Bridges.
Well, Freddie Scott is here today, and we're going to talk about his latest book called The Dad I Wish I Had.
The Lord clearly spoke to me and said, write a book entitled The Dad I Wish I Had. And when I did that, initially, I knew God spoke. I knew exactly what he was talking about because of things that had gone on in my life, in my childhood. But the first question I asked was, well, how do I write this book and still give honor to my father and mother?
Right.
Stay tuned. Bridges starts now.
My guest is Freddie Scott, and he has written a book called The Dad I Wish I Had. Freddie, I want to welcome you to Bridges. Good to meet you and have you here today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm glad to do it. I want us to start out with Freddie, because this is a great book, The Dad I Wish I Had, but let's start with getting to know you just a little bit better. Tell me a little bit about who you are.
Well, I'm actually a second-generation NFL football player. My father played 11 years in the NFL, and I sort of followed in his footsteps in that, and played college at Penn State, and then
I love Penn State, by the way. Just thought I'd mention that.
Yes. I'm not mad at you for that. That's a good thing. And then played 4 years in the NFL with the Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, and Detroit Lions. But I acknowledged the call of God on my life at an early age. Actually, at the end of my rookie year in the NFL, I started preparation for ministry. So while everybody else was, living up their NFL income, I was in school of ministry learning prayer and faith and things necessary that I believe has allowed me to do what God's called me to do now.
Amen. And that God allowed you to play football and open up those doors, and your dad following in his footsteps, but yet always knowing that the call of God was there.
Yes.
And being willing to develop that so that you could share the other gifts that God has placed in your heart. And now you've got this book called The Dad I Wish I Had. What inspired this for you, Freddie?
I was in service on a Wednesday night, and that's a sort of plug for anyone that doesn't go to midweek Bible study. You may be missing out on an assignment from God. But I was in service on a Wednesday night, and we were doing a DVD small group series that the Focus on the Family did called The Truth Project, and we're doing a session on the family and God's blueprint for the family. And during that session, the Lord clearly spoke to me and said, write a book entitled The Dad I Wish I Had. And when I did that, initially, I knew God spoke. I knew exactly what he was talking about because of things that had gone on in my life, in my childhood. But the first question I asked was, well, how do I write this book and still give honor to my father and mother?
Right. Yes.
And God showed me how to do that. The book in no way slams my father, but it addresses the issues that happens in the hearts of children when your relationship with your parents, specifically your father, isn't what God intended for it to be. And in fact, I gave the copy of the manuscript to my father for his approval and for his blessing.
Amen.
And his comments are right there in the book, and I believe that was just the right thing to do.
Yes, and that the Lord put it on your heart to honor your dad and your mom, because that's important. The Bible tells us to do that.
Yes.
And I think especially, Freddie, for men, when we talk about being a dad and a spiritual leader, a lot of men, it's not that they don't love their wives, it's not that they don't love their children, it's that a lot of them didn't have the best role model or example themselves, and so therefore they come into this family situation and they want to do everything right. Nobody likes to fail or lose.
Nope.
You know that as an NFL player.
That's
I mean,
right.
losing is just not fun, and
That's right.
being not good at something. But these men don't know what to do, and then they have this spiritual admonition and sometimes this spiritual thing, you're not being a good enough leader, and the poor guy feels like, man.
I'm in over my head.
Yeah.
What in the world am I get myself into? And it's very interesting because as I've done this research, God gave me a simple analogy. A few months ago,